Welcome, my virtual friends, to our next HubSpot User Group for B2B Technology here in the USA. Oh, I love Debbie's hearts emojis there. We have with us today Debbie Levitt. She'll do a nice intro herself, but she's going to be speaking about the best, better, good, ugh, risky UX in a B2B tech marketer's world. Take it away, Debbie.
All right. And then there's a giant picture of Jen, everybody.
Oh,
Get to
perfect.
know
Yes.
Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen, for those who don't know me. I'm the owner of Kiwi Creative. We are a HubSpot Platinum Solutions partner and work exclusively with B2B software and technology companies, which is why we have such an interest in this particular user group. We put on these hugs or HubSpot user groups once a quarter. The next one will be in September. I have a little promo for that at the end. But for now, we're here to listen to Debbie talk about UX.
All right, let's do it. And I might run a little bit late on this. If anybody has questions, my email's on every slide. You're welcome to get in touch, even if you're watching the video later. And otherwise, I'll try to stay a little bit late and answer questions. But I think my talk is probably going to run 50 minutes or so. I threw in everything I wanted to say. So thanks to Jen for helping me with a fantastic title: Best, Better, Good, Risky UX in a B2B Tech Marketer's World. While I introduce myself, I'd like you to take a 2-question poll over on Mentimeter. So please go to menti.com. It's up on the screen, MENTI. If you're watching the video later, too late. And then it'll ask you for a code, and you can put in 93597859. I'll leave those up on the screen, but it's just a 2-question poll. It does require a little bit of thinking, but I figure you can do that while I'm introducing myself because, hey, let's multitask. So again, menti.com, 93597859. So, hello, I'm Debbie Levitt, and I've been a CX and UX strategist, designer, researcher, and all kinds of things for 4,000 years. Me and Noah. I'm not an artist. I have a bachelor's in music and an MBA. My company is called Delta CX. We're a full-service CX and UX consultancy. We focus on projects, training, and consulting work, especially going into companies and helping them be more customer centric, which is really quite a transition. And and clients like to call me Mary Poppins because I fly in, fix everything I can, sing a few songs, and fly away to where I'm needed next. It's been recommended to me that for accessibility, I do a quick visual description of myself. So I would describe myself as a 50-year-old woman with long, wavy hair. I'm a little out of shape, and I'm shorter than my big personality would have you believe. Um, and I think I'm getting over bronchitis, so I apologize if I'm coughing from time to time and drinking a lot of water. I promise it's only water. You too drink water. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that you saw this talk so that I actually accept the connection. And if you're interested in CX or UX and you want to learn more, please subscribe to my Delta CX YouTube channel. I'm live there usually 2 to 4 times a week, helping people out, teaching and answering their questions. We've also got a free Slack workspace. You'll also see a little camera icon, and that just means my slides are done animating. So let's see what people have written here. A company or product that's so awesome, it's like they read your mind. You can't wait to use them more. You are happy to pay for it. We've got Truebill, Apple, HubSpot. Oh, I think that I smell Jen over there. Amazon, even though I feel guilty, that's a whole other story. I do not have time for my ethics slides today. Spotify and Netflix, Slack, Monday.com. I am with you. I am a super wild fan of Monday.com. Wow. I've never been so excited about a product in a long time. Hashtag not sponsored. So great. Thank you so much for filling that out. But now, of course, the question is, would your B2B customers put you on this list? If they wouldn't, it's probably not because you didn't market to them enough. It's probably something in the customer or user experience, the system, the portal, how the features work, how the features don't work, how much your product saves or wastes people's time. By the way, there is a second poll question. So make sure you say next and go to the next poll question as well. We're going to look at those results later, but I'm interested for those of you who have been, maybe trying to do some of your own research, whether it's market research or UX research. I'm curious about some of the questions you like to ask people and what questions you think get us the best information. So fill that one out too, and we'll take a look at it later. Hey, we still have 30 more slides. So as we look at what's best, better, good, ugh, and risky, it's definitely a spectrum. A good method executed badly could be ugh and risky. Working really hard and doing great work on a bad idea could be ugh and risky. Solving the wrong problem is ugh and risky. So today we'll take a look at some of what can happen in the worlds of marketing, CX, and UX that could be your superpower or something likely to create failures. On the best side, we've got partnering with CX and UX specialists so they can do what they do best and you marketers can do what you do best. Another best practice is making sure anytime you are guessing, assuming, hypothesizing, making things up, or hoping that you stop and work with CX and UX researchers so that you can replace those guesses with knowledge. Make sure we're truly understanding our target customers and their needs and tasks. That's pretty much the main path to customer centricity. And because we'll then need to meet or exceed their expectations. It's easier to market and promote a great product than a crappy one, as you know. Now, I know you won't always have CX and UX professionals available to you, so we'll talk about some things that you can try yourself, which falls into the good but risky category. And then there's the really ugh stuff, common things that people do every day, but we've got to catch ourselves and do less or none of it if possible. It's completely ugh to run with guesses, assumptions, and stereotypes about our current and potential customers. If we're going to interact with users, it is ugh and risky to recruit the wrong people for research. It's ugh and risky to ask them the wrong questions. Deceptive design, formerly known as dark patterns, trick users into doing what you want, not what they want. Anything unethical is ugh and risky. Empathy is a buzzword right now, but it's become meaningless. Empathy isn't enough, especially if it's based on guesses and stereotypes about users. Empathy isn't enough without taking customer centric actions. Companies have fallen in love with workshopping everything. If we don't really know something, we get more people in a room to brainstorm and guess about brainstorms and brainstorm about guesses. This strangely seems to mostly happen around things that are related to UX. I don't see a lot of hours or days blocked from marketing so that we can all brainstorm marketing campaigns together, make marketing roadmaps, or workshop our content strategy. I have an ugly story to tell you. The marketing department at a Fortune 50 came to me a few years ago. They're a B2B SaaS, and their website wasn't converting well. Supposedly, even the CEO hated the website. They hired an outside marketing company to help them with SEO, and it was working. They were getting more traffic, but conversions were still down. They wanted to know what my company could do for their website. And so, to test me out, they asked me to find 3 problems with their site that I would suggest that they fix. So I poked around for a little while and then I emailed them back. Number one, your website navigation is quite bad. I bet it's hard for potential customers to find the information they want. Number two, I don't think your content is written for the target audience that you've described. So I think some of your content alienates people and doesn't kind of meet them where they are. And number three, I can tell that they redid the website in pieces. A few pages redone one year, a few pages redone another year. The whole thing was really inconsistent and came off unprofessional. But as a fourth bonus item, I told them that I pretended that I was a customer signing up for 10 licenses for my team. I put that in my cart and I went to the checkout. When I got to the checkout page, the whole page was there except for where the credit card form should have been. That was blank, missing from the page. I couldn't complete the checkout or pay. So I checked the source code and I found that someone had put the credit card form in an iframe, which my browser found suspicious and blocked. Can you imagine how many millions of dollars they may have left on the table because the credit card form was missing for some users and nobody noticed until I tried it? Nobody had some QA engineers test the site with different browsers and ad blockers. Totally shameful. And no, they didn't hire me. They told me they had it under control. Let's talk a little bit about what user centered design is, because a lot of people in marketing think, hey, what UX people do looks pretty easy. I can do it myself. I'm sure I'm doing it pretty well. But let's talk about what our process really is. And it's got customer centricity pretty much in its name. So, the best way to go, notice the top right of my screen, we're going to have little faces and reminders of what things are, would be to have at least one UX researcher and at least one UX designer working with you on each of your projects. If you're grabbing freelancers, make sure they have at least 5 years of experience in their specialty. 6 years as a creative director doesn't mean they've done UX work. I love seeing UX juniors get jobs, but juniors need coaching and help. So if you don't have a UX team that can support and train them, make sure when you're bringing in UX people, you're bringing in highly qualified seniors. So, user centered design, UCD, is also called human centered design, HCD. It's got multiple phases, including research, content strategy, information architecture, interaction design, testing, and visual design. Each phase has multiple tasks that can be done. CX and UX professionals have to approach this process strategically, deciding which tasks are needed, who or what we need to do them, how long they're going to take, and what order we're going to do things. Because order does matter, because things we do early in our process will inform and feed into the things we do later in our process. For example, research informs everything, information architecture informs interaction design. And I've made this look linear, but in reality, it's fluid and it's cyclical. So, for example, testing an interaction design concept can lead to iteration, but this would mean another round of testing and design before we say, this is ready to go. That means our work is spiraling its way to the best solution. You'll also hear models saying learn, build, and test, which is an oversimplification, but learning, building, testing, and improving are baked into our process. But you'll also notice that any model that starts with build is really missing a lot of the early learning that is so important, especially if we want to be more customer or user centric. And you'll hear all kinds of variations. There's lots of derivatives of user centered design out there, some better than others, which we don't have time to go into today. Double diamond is a better derivative, design thinking is a worse derivative. So when you see these, a lot of them can be superimposed onto user centered design, but many of them are not as thorough and good as user centered design. Research is definitely the most important UCD phase, and it's not user centered without users. We primarily want to observe them because that's where you're going to learn the most about who people are, what their tasks are, their needs, their goals. Interviews can be excellent when we ask the right people the right things, but since what people say and what people do aren't always the same, observational studies are best. Statistics and quantitative data are nice, but nothing really replaces watching people, deeply understanding them, and getting that qualitative data. In the UX world, we want to know all of the who, what, where, why, when, hows, and not just how many. Every step of research is important. Planning, writing interview and task guides, recruiting participants, executing the sessions, interpreting and analyzing and evaluating what we found, and arriving on actionable insights and opportunities. And you can see how different that is from we ask some people what they want and we're building that. And testing is the QA of CX and UX. We don't skimp on or exclude QA testing for our code. So, why do we rush out untested websites or product concepts? Usability testing will help us validate, invalidate, and improve concepts. Research and testing help us know what will be quality and value to users. As a quick example, a couple of years ago, my agency did a live remote observational research study to learn how online sellers list items for sale on a well known platform, which is B2B in a bit of a small way because it was a two-sided marketplace. And we asked participants to share their screens and show us how they list the item, and we found an incredible amount of information. We found that some of the fields on the page were meaningless to people. They didn't know what they meant, so they weren't sure what they had to fill out on the page and what they didn't. We learned that they put band aids and workarounds on their process. They had outside tools, systems, cheat sheets, browser plugins, and all kinds of things to help them improve their task completion. They found weird inconsistencies and inefficiencies in the system. Why does the form ask you if your downloadable art file PDF comes framed? They found error messages that didn't make sense to them. They couldn't understand what was going wrong or how to fix it. You're unlikely to discover these types of details about behaviors, workarounds, and tasks through a survey. A B testing doesn't tell us this, and people tend to be less honest in a focus group because others in the room are surely judging them. Can you imagine a personality like mine in a focus group? Your focus group is toast. Everybody's talking about empathy. Just have empathy. Create empathy. Workshop empathy. In a vacuum, empathy is not enough. Even the sympathy of, gosh, customers seem to be struggling with this, isn't enough. It's not enough to feel for customers or care about customers. It requires knowledge and action. Knowledge would be the good data we get from real customer research, things we know versus things teams love to guess at or assume. Action is, what did we do? Very often, we did little or nothing. Here's an example. My bank imagines that a woman in her 40s has kids, so they send lots of back to school ads and promotions. Debbie might have a college age daughter who needs money. Well, when I get ads for products and services for kids, back to school time, and wishes for my very special Mother's Day, I know that segmentation based on age and gender assumptions is lazy and not personalized. I'm 50 now, and I purposefully never had children, so these messages and ads are annoying. But these messages could be upsetting or devastating for anybody who wanted children but ended up childless and not by choice. How could we show that person back to school ads? It's almost cruel. If we truly understood our customers and had empathy for them, we would never show an advertisement about your children to someone who never had children or tragically lost a child. That's how I know we're not being honest when we throw around the word empathy at our workplaces. Even the sympathy can be hollow. If we really saw people's realities through their eyes, perspectives, and beliefs, and felt or at least cared about what they feel when we hand them this garbage, we'd stop handing them a lot of garbage. Whether or not we had empathy, what knowledge do we have, and what action are we taking? Especially in America, we're hearing more and more groups asking if after a 1 hour interview, anybody can really empathize with users' lived experiences. Groups who are concerned that we're falling back on stereotypes. And they're right. I don't need you to have empathy. I'll settle for sympathy, care, and action based on deep knowledge of people, contexts, and tasks. Behavior triggers is something I think I've created, and it's a great partnership opportunity between marketing, UX, and engineering. So it's on my best list. I once tried for over an hour to buy a weekend cruise online. No matter what I tried, at the very last step of the checkout, I got a generic error message that offered no help or solution. I logged into my account from multiple browsers and I still couldn't buy it. I tried different credit cards, couldn't buy it. Couldn't put a courtesy hold on the trip, couldn't put a down payment on the trip, couldn't buy the trip. I was at a dead end. But then, of course, the next morning I got a cart recovery email reminding me to book now. I tried and I still couldn't. I can imagine stories that some people in marketing or sales might tell themselves. Customers like Debbie don't always have enough money for a cruise. Debbie just changed her mind. Debbie's demographic doesn't always buy cruises on their first visit to the site. We have lots of people abandoning carts. They're just tire kickers. They never intended to buy a cruise. Lots of guessing and imagination, but what do we really know? And more importantly, how can we save any of these sales? What if we were proactive? Can we create algorithms to proactively find these customers and put processes in place to proactively help them just in time? Consider creating what I call behavior triggers. Help people before they become sad metrics. Help them before you help them before you make incorrect guesses and assumptions about their behavior. Here's some sample behavior triggers using the previous story. What if the second purchase failure and error message triggered live help chat from someone who could see through their support interface what I was trying to buy and honor that price and help convert me into a paying customer? A first checkout attempt does make me look serious and like I'm not just kicking tires. A second checkout attempt is generous of me. Hurry up and save the sale. When things go bad for me a second time, step in while we still have momentum. Once I leave, I might buy from a competitor. Can the system catch me logging in from more than one browser, trying to buy the same thing over and over? Logging in from another browser sure makes me look like a serious customer trying to give you my money. Save the sale. Can the system notice that I'm trying multiple channels? I logged into my account so you know who I am. I tried to buy and I couldn't, so I called customer support. She accessed my account, so you know who I am. Boom. This customer seems way more serious about buying. She's tried two ways to do this. Save the sale. Maybe don't call people because that's a little creepy, but you could peek up a little live chat offer, not a chat bot, real humans, and not a big pop up, just a little peek. Acknowledge people are having trouble, offer to help. And if someone doesn't want to do this, don't keep setting it off on every page. Make sure they only see it once. Bonus points if the chat rep can see what's in my cart or what the prices are so that they don't have to ask me stupid questions when they could already know. But not every behavior trigger might lead to a chat pop up, but it could create action within your organization. Do you ever worry that a customer exporting or downloading their data is thinking of leaving? Set up a behavior trigger to notify someone at your company when this happens. I can't tell you how often I download my data or things like that at companies. Nobody contacts me. I think like, wow, I'm leaving and they don't know or care. So proactively reach out to people and see what they need. What about when someone cancels auto renew? That is a bad sign that they might leave. Let's not wait until they've left to learn what went wrong. Reach out and see if that customer can be helped and retained. Let's shift to some good but risky but could end up UG stuff when the UX team is zero. If you've got no access to UX practitioners, which Jen told me is the situation some of you are in, there are some UX things you can try yourself. They could end up okay, but they're still risky because you might be guessing at very specialized work. One thing marketers can try to do themselves is to Google heuristics from the nngroup.com website. These are common standards that we have for digital experiences like websites and apps. You can learn more about these standards and then check what you're working on to make sure they meet these standards. Use your critical thinking and see if the system helps people from making mistakes. Is it easy to mess something up? Then we have to design something better. How about consistency? As my earlier story said, I often see marketing teams redoing pieces of websites, but rarely the whole website. This creates an inconsistent experience that can look unprofessional. Match between system and the real world is a reminder, among other things, to use terms that make sense to the target user. Don't make them learn your internal lingo. Use the terms they would use for these things. This helps experiences be better and easier to learn and easier to use. The four horsemen of bad UX, my registered trademark, they're frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. Listen for frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction during any observational research or interviews that you're doing. Watch for them in the voice of the customer, tickets, tweets, all of these things that you should be reviewing. Check for these if you are trying to design something or change a layout. Listen for the four horsemen during usability and other testing with current and target users. Oh, hold on. I'm just getting a pop up here. Let's click to get rid of it. Okay. So as I was saying, oh, wait a minute, another one. No, I guess I don't want 15% off. I'm in the middle of a presentation. Let's X that out. Oh man, another one? I wish marketers understood that users are task based. We think in terms of tasks. My task right now is to present to you. When I hit your website, my task might be to learn about your pricing or try the demo. None of us want to join your mailing list, even if you're giving away a white paper. Now I have to click that I don't care which marketing tools are right for my business, but I do care, just not right now. This is called confirm shaming and it's considered unethical. Oh no, what now live chat? No, I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't need help. Just get out of my way. As I was saying, the four horsemen frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction remind us to consider what's really going on for the users and visitors from their perspectives. How many of you are the fastest guns in the West when it comes to closing pop ups? We want to make sure that people have an easy, intuitive, and efficient experience. Test, test, test. When you are changing a website or system, check it from your phone, from your computer, from Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Edge, whatever you have installed. Make sure it looks and works right. Imagine you've never heard of your company. Does the website make sense? Are people getting the information they need to make decisions or consider your product? Don't just try from your computer at your desk. Go ride the bus, holding a bag of groceries, holding onto the pole so you don't fall, and try visiting the website from your phone with one hand. Fill out the contact form, including answering any long answer questions that are there. Watch yourself be forced onto the mailing list. Will you put a real email address there or just unsubscribe later? A little bit of testing will help you start to see how awful things could be for everyone else. Does your site even work on a phone? Does your site work for people with different disabilities, diagnoses, and conditions? Vision, hearing, mobility, cognitive, emotional, and more. If it doesn't, then all the fine print in the world about we don't discriminate will quickly be seen as a lie by disabled visitors that can't use your website or system. So testing the system yourself is a good idea. It's not as good as having doing real UX usability testing with real or archetypal users and observing their experiences. But potential and current customers can tell when you didn't even check your own work. If your website is sloppy, doesn't work, or makes it look like nobody cares about details, you can drive away those precious visitors. If you don't want to test it yourself, hire QA testers. That's what they do. So please QA test. There are many ways to do usability testing, but they all include, you guessed it, testing on real users. These might be current customers, potential customers, or random participants who match our personas or target segments. Hint, they're better than your real customers. Testing not only validates or invalidates our design concepts, but it can also be used for fun things like settling when we disagree on which designs we like better. I may be sure I have a great design, but I defer to users. In testing, we normally show them a prototype and give them a task. How would you choose and find a dress? User testing can be done on desktop, mobile app, and any device. It's best to test the design on every device the customer might use. Don't just test the desktop version if they might also visit from a phone. UX gets the test results, interprets them, and decides if we're good to go or if we need to iterate on the design. Remember, changing the design should mean testing again. And again, remember that your testing is only as good as the planning, recruiting, prototype sessions, and analysis that went into it. So you can certainly try some testing yourself. But remember that research and testing do take the average person years to be good at them. And I could talk forever about the importance of prototypes that have more realistic interactivity where people can fill forms, not just click through a thing, but really use it realistically. So just remember if a UX prototype isn't realistic to how the site or system works or can be used, it's not right for testing. We don't test how people like cheap microwaved pizza when our ultimate product will be fresh homemade pizza in a restaurant in Italy. Let's go super UG and talk about some common research mistakes that we want to avoid because many marketers are doing their own research and some are trying what would be qualitative or UX research like interviews and observations. Some areas where research tends to go wrong when it's not done by a qualified professional include: who were your research participants? Did you just grab some people around the office? We've got to make sure that we only research and test with people who match our target users. And as I was just saying, pro tip, it's great to recruit people who aren't our customers. Our customers are too familiar with our system. They're used to its flaws and they've probably created workarounds and band aids. So, researching with people who fit our target audience but aren't our customers yet will give us fresh perspectives on our target customers' needs, tasks, and priorities. Asking the wrong questions can make our research unusable or risky. The best question to ask is always, how can this be improved? A quick note: I'm going to address chat, comments, and questions at the end, but definitely write them now if you'd like. Always ask, how can this be improved? And hey, not everybody's great at interpreting data. Where are the patterns? Which are the outliers or flukes among the answers? This is where specialist and experienced UX researchers really shine. Analyzing and synthesizing research data is its own set of skills. So, any one or more of these do have the potential to steer us in those UG and risky directions. So, a couple of examples of bad questions that I see a lot. And I get the feeling you might have questions about these because they might look like some questions that you like to ask. No offense to anybody here. We're thinking about offering thing. Would you like something like that? Now, you often hear yes. Many people like to be polite and not create conflict. Meanwhile, what does that thing look like? How does it work? You're asking people to guess if they like something they've never seen. And when they say, yeah, I want that, we have no idea what they're imagining. There's a really good chance we're not going to build what they're thinking. Would your colleagues use something like thing? People are bad at predicting their own behaviors. They're even worse at guessing what other people might or might not do. What do you want? People often don't know. They know the task they're trying to accomplish, but often can't architect the best solution. How would you feel if our product had or didn't have a certain aspect? Too much future speculation on a future possible effect that a new future or lack of current feature might have on someone's tasks and workflows, as well as asking them to guess their future emotions about this. This is how we often end up with non UX research saying people love the idea, it really fits their needs, and they're going to pay for it. And then UX researchers researching the same thing say it's not a good fit and we can't speculate about our colleagues' opinions. It's also how we sometimes end up building something that's not quite right for users, and everybody is shrugging, saying, well, we asked users what they wanted. If you only hear positive things, you ask the wrong people the wrong questions, or both. That's for research and testing. We do research not to hear how great we are or how super our ideas are. We do our research to learn what's going wrong, what could be better, and where we're failing. That means we have to get comfortable hearing something bad, putting that in our reports, and then doing something about it. Shoes of Prey learned the hard way that there can be a huge gap between customers' desires, intentions, or what they tell us, and then what they actually do or pay for. Their market research reported that customers said they wanted to customize shoes. We don't know what questions these people were asked, but if they were asked, would you like to customize a pair of shoes? People might imagine some sort of dream system and say yes. After Shoes of Prey spent time and money creating a customization system, they found it wasn't being used. It turned out that customers really didn't want this. Shoes of Prey then learned that customers really just wanted to be inspired and shown what to wear. The CEO at the time said, there are, quote, there are customer research methods that enable you to peel back the layers of psychology to understand what a customer truly wants. While this type of customer research is difficult to get right, and the results aren't always clear cut, if I'm ever attempting to change consumer behavior again, I will do this. End quote. Hey, CX and UX researchers do this all the time, and they don't necessarily believe it's difficult to get right or it's lacking in clear direction. And we can't blame the customers for the questions we asked or how we interpreted the data. And usually we have more success when we're not changing consumer behavior, but catering to it. If you consider your own day to day world, you probably run into a lot of surveys that are frustrating. You've probably seen questions that didn't make sense or seemed to answer themselves. Maybe you felt like the people who wrote the survey were clearly fishing for one particular answer. You've seen surveys where you felt like none of the answers were a match to your opinions, or the answers you wanted to pick weren't available choices. How about surveys that force you to rate or rank things in order of importance or preference, but some things on the list weren't important to you at all? Now you have to rank equally unimportant things against each other, giving the company the false idea that some of these things are important. And we've all seen surveys where the possible answers didn't seem to match the original question. It was like they were answering some other question. What normally ends up happening in these situations is that we, as survey takers, either give up on the survey and leave, or we start answering the questions the way the survey seems to want us to. Both outcomes here mean flawed results. Flawed results that are used to inform strategies, directions, and designs are highly risky. Therefore, it's best to not use surveys to try to understand users, their needs, their tasks, or the like. Qualitative research will give us the data we really need. And some people, especially those less familiar with UX, might think a fast way to come up with a design or design improvements is through A B testing. A is what your system is now, B is a variation or new concept. You plan to run both at the same time to different percentages of real visitors. There's something here that you can measure that tells you if A or B is a better choice. Companies often measure conversion, sales, sign-ups, or something that makes them money. You might even measure time on task or number of errors made, which is a little bit more customer centric. You might pick whichever design seemed to help people work faster or have fewer errors, but there are some common mistakes here, ugh and risky. Was the B variant usability tested first as part of our UX process, or is it a guess? We shouldn't give real users software or websites made from guesses. Even if you want to A B test something, make sure to vet the B variant first. If A or B win, here's another problem. We don't know why. We don't know what's bad or wrong about either. We don't know if there's a C or D that might be better, but we didn't work on it yet. Another issue is sometimes that what we've measured is too narrow or short term. Maybe the B version was faster for someone to complete, but we find out later that it set up another step of the process for some sort of failure. It's one reason why we shouldn't over focus on a single metric or step of the task. We could be missing a ripple effect. Sometimes A B test results are uninclusive, but somebody really needs that B to win. And oh, you know what I'm talking about. Some magic happens with those numbers. And what about a situation where people have been using A for years, but B is new? Now it's got a bit of a learning curve. The metrics might fool us a bit. They might say, well, people were slower with B. Well, sure, they've never seen it before. But what if after you get used to B, it's better and you make fewer errors? Will the A B test show the longer arc of how people use this over time? Usually not. These are some of the issues with A B testing, which is why UX rarely does A B testing. We're more likely to determine if a new concept or variation is better through usability testing and watching how people move through the task or workflow. Make sure that A B testing is about how something performs versus trying to use B or other variations to design an interface. In my article, Your CX and UX Metrics Are Myopic, I looked at the dangers of measuring for short term wins like we often see in A B testing. We might be testing a small change and we want to see if people buy more often, or whatever metric we're trying to measure. We see the lift, we call it a success, and we go in more or fully on that winner. But do we ever measure that longer term or across the longer end to end customer journey? The customer's experience doesn't stop when they check out or sign up for the trial or do that one thing you're hoping for. There are actions, subtasks, and future tasks that can happen later. What if your winning AB variant created a higher value purchase but led to more complaints, angry tweets, or contract cancellations? Is that variant still the winner? What if your variant saw higher conversion with people buying, but the customers coming through were less likely to buy again? These can all be measured, but we rarely measure these. So I suggest that anything you measure be looked at over a longer period of time, longer customer journey arc. If your short term metric has if the winner of that short term metric has a negative ripple effect to a longer term metric, we should be smart enough to be watching for that before we declare the variant a winner. I wouldn't be a UX person talking to a marketing group if I didn't say a few things about NPS. NPS is not our favorite, but it can be okay if it's matched with knowledge and action. We've got to pair it with qualitative research to learn more about why we got a certain score and what can we do to improve things. If it's just a number in a report and everybody hopes it looks better next quarter, I think you're doing it wrong. Thinking critically about NPS, it asks if you would recommend us to someone else. It doesn't ask you if you've already recommended us or how often you've recommended us or who you recommended us to. Even if they give us a score of 10, we don't know if they're happy. We don't know what's going wrong. We don't know if the score is about one really bad or one really good experience, what's often called the peak end rule. We only know that they claim they would possibly recommend us to someone else, and we assume that's a measure of satisfaction or loyalty. You might also be doing NPS wrong if your reaction to a low score is, well, maybe that's normal for our industry. Low scores should not be normal or rationalized. Work on learning what you can improve and then make those improvements. If you told me our NPS was 97, I would still say, okay, let's learn what we can improve. You can't rest or be complacent because you got a score you like. There's always something to fix or improve, and we must be proactive. I once heard about a company where when B2B customers signed the contract, the NPS was 50. And when it was time to renew the contract, the NPS was negative 25. That's bad news. That hints that we are either abandoning customers during their journey or doing a lot wrong. I also saw this company average out the scores to make it look better. Let's not do that. We should be talking honestly about what's going on at each step. NPS often isn't actionable. Great, we have a score, but what's going wrong? How do we fix it? What's going right? This often leads to marketing, sales, and other teams guessing at problems and guessing at solutions, which is ugh and risky. I often see marketers say, well, we raised our prices recently, so that can cause lower NPS scores. And everybody agrees. But what if that's not the real reason? What if our salespeople, support people, or product kind of sucks? Let's not find the easiest excuse we can find. Let's use good research to learn why. Let's partner with UX on this. And let's face it, 100% of current customers are susceptible to competitive offerings. Some will jump at a lower price. Some will jump when our competitor improves what they offer. Some are happy, but always checking other options. People are loyal until they're not. I gave a company a score of 9 for years until the day I left them. NPS shouldn't be the first time we're reaching out to people to see how they are, what they need, or what's going wrong. We always want to research with customers to learn what's going right, what's failing, where the problems are, and what customers' unmet needs are. I've got about 5 more slides, so I'm probably going to use most of our time today, but I'll stay a little bit late and take questions if anyone has them. All right, let's look at your answers to what good questions are, and I'm going to tell you what I think. All right, I'm looking at screen 2. It depends on the goal of the focus group or interview. Very true. Okay, so that's a pretty good answer. Don't you that not all questions are going to be right for every group or whatever you're researching. So thanks to that person. What would XXX do or look like in an ideal world? Oh, boo. I'm going to have to boo that one. I'm so sorry. But as you can see, it's usually, at least from UX's perspective, it is not a good idea to ask people to design their own solution. It's better to learn about their tasks and work internally to design that solution, because what does it look like in an ideal world? What is that ideal world? Many people aren't too sure what would solve their problem. Some don't even understand their problem. Some don't know how to make their task more efficient. So don't leave it to them to figure out how to do this. A UX designer's job is a problem finder and problem solver. I would rather get mountains of research data and work on testing solutions than say, this is what we think people want, just build that. Then I don't get to be a problem finder or a problem solver, and I'm quitting your job. Depends on what we're trying to learn. Yes. What would make you be a hero to your boss or company? That's a really good question. I like that. There's something interesting about that, because what you're getting at is accountability. You're getting at how people are measured, and you're trying to figure out how to make them successful in what they're doing. And in a sense, that's a bit of a cousin of understanding their task. Because when I talk about understanding a task is the full end-to-end customer journey. It's not just the time they're on our website or in our ecosystem. It includes all the stuff that happens before, during, and after, especially related to decision making and getting that authorization. So I think questions that you can ask that help you learn more about their decision making process and how they determine B2B tool or service success is a good one. Amazon is technically not a question, but thank you. What's the research objective? I think you're asking me that. So again, we don't know. So I accept that. What about our product or offering is a total pain in the ass? Okay, hopefully you're not phrasing it that way. Usually the better way to go is to have someone walk through a task. This would be our evaluative research. Have people walk through a task in our existing system and ask, what could be improved? Now, also, from watching them do it, you'll also see what can be improved. Don't ask a leading question like, it looked like you had trouble with blah, blah, blah. Don't say that to people. No, just ask them what can be improved. But remember, what you saw them do takes precedence over what they say. I have a million stories about that, but we won't have time. So thanks for playing along on the polls. All right, so let's talk about how UX, which I also call CX, I use those terms interchangeably, though I know some people don't agree. Hey, we can be BFFs, you know. Marketing's new bestest friend could be CX and UX. Marketing has the business's ear and the wallet. You've got mountains of goals that we can help you achieve. We'll partner on KPIs and metrics, and you'll help us get some of the time and budget we need. Marketing will help CX tie great outcomes and business successes to our UX work. And we can partner with you on stuff marketing does now, but kind of shouldn't be doing alone, like designing, building, and maintaining the public facing website. We can also test copy, emails, and other marketing things that the public, so that when the public sees them, they're more likely to meet or exceed goals. Many more experienced UX practitioners are great at improving conversion rates while using only ethical designs and ideas. Even if you want to A B test, let's make B a better variant that's been vetted. We're going to make marketing look good, and you're going to help UX look good. No wine emoji. Yes. I-10. You can count on I-10 to find the wine and the helicopter. So, using example of, let's say, a landing page, let's look at how your process might change. The old way is grab a web designer, visual designer, or UX person, or yourself, and say, I'm going to make a better landing page. You A/B test the landing page, and hey, if B wins, we don't know why it won, or is it flawed, or is there something better? But hey, B won. And I always say, why start with guesses when we can start with knowledge? But the new way that I'm suggesting looks more like this. Great qualitative UX research is done with target customers and users, some current customers, and some who haven't been to our website or used our product or done business with us. This will help us understand all target customers, tasks, perceptions, habits, and where our current website or workflows are poor experiences. We'll use task analysis and optimize task flow, which I didn't have time to tell you about, but you can Google UX task analysis. We're also writing a book on it. Um, I have lots of videos on it in my Delta CX YouTube channel. So go to the micro lessons playlist, look for a bunch of videos about task analysis. So, task analysis and optimized task flow will help us find actionable insights and opportunities to improve customers' experiences. Then we can work on cycles of information architecture, interaction design, testing, and iteration, whether this is our website or our product. And then once those have been vetted and the user centered design process is complete, we can A B test for performance. And of course, make sure you've got your baseline numbers on that funnel conversion and other metrics of interest. Watch those metrics in the short and long term, including side effects and how the B group behaves over time. So, a little bit of summary. Here's a few tips for the new and improved CX, UX, and marketing friendship. Variants should be high quality. B can be raw, unfinished, or based on guesses. Let's make sure anything we're A B testing has stuff that we researched, architected, tested, iterated on, and validated, especially if this is going out to the paying public. Be careful with surveys. They can be too long, focus too much on quant over qualitative, and they can be biased accidentally or on purpose. They sometimes don't get to the heart of what marketing or UX would like to know to create change. So if it's not meaningful and actionable, let's not bother. Be careful of focus groups. We think they suffer from groupthink. People might be less honest or even dishonest by accident or on purpose in the name of being polite or because there's others in the room. Stay away from devious design, formerly known as dark patterns. If you're not familiar with that, you can Google dark patterns, and that includes forms of bullying and confirm shaming. We shouldn't have to trick people into doing something they didn't want to do. You hate when this is done to you, so let's stop doing it. Question your assumptions and use behavior triggers. If your hotel chain data shows that bookings are way up from phones, don't assume it's because people prefer to book from phones. Excellent research might show something else is going on, like your new website is broken and people can't book from the website. Marketing copy and CX UX writing are not always the same things. There's a time for writing longer content when we care more about SEO or we have canyons of depth to cover about a topic, and there's a time for our copy to quickly give nuggets of information to our visitors. We must find the balance between romance copy and the information the customer needs. And that is it. I was right when I said this was 50 minutes long. Thanks. Please join me in the Delta CX universe, the Slack channel, the YouTube. I've also got a longer thing, a workshop that I do called Transforming Toward Customer Centricity. You can find all this on my website. But for now, I'll move to Jen's last slide so you can remember to please block out time for September's event. Oh, Jen, you're muted. Jen, you're muted. Wah, wah. No, but you have a microphone with a slash through it. While Jen works on not having a microphone with a slash through it, let me just go back through the chat. And Jen says, "Amen on pop-up overload." I10 says, "Preparation is more difficult than the process itself because you do it once and put away, but it affects your whole process. Please stop doing research with your family, friends, and colleagues unless you're writing a school paper called My Family." Oh, that's fantastic, I10. I haven't seen that one before. And don't forget the wine emoji. Jen still has a crossed out microphone, unfortunately, but if anyone has questions, I am happy to stay late and take them. Please put them in the chat room. I'm also happy to address anything you think you disagree with or something you've heard differently than what I've said. Feel free to disagree with me or offer another perspective or ask for my help with something. So I'm here to take absolutely any question or disagreement you'd like to offer. Jen warned me there might not be questions. Ah, And I'll read what Jen's writing out loud. Here's the link for the next hug on email marketing. And if you'd be so kind to answer Kiwi Creative survey on your own tech company's website, we'll send you a $5 gift card. surveymonkey.com/r/website-hug. I10 says, I have one question. Only one? Do you think marketing departments should have their own UX researcher and designer, or should they outsource from the product department? Great question. I think it really depends on what the marketing department is working on. I think there's good opportunities in both. Like personally, I think the more marketing works with real UX people, the better it is. And I'm going to be less hung up about what department everybody's in. Now, in reality, it's best for UX researchers and designers to have a UX manager because that's somebody who came from the work, that's somebody who can support them, that's somebody who can coach them. So the downside to embedding UX in marketing too deeply is if you give UX a marketing manager, those people are often frustrated with their jobs. My manager never worked in UX. They don't understand what I'm doing. Conflict, conflict, conflict. Now, of course, you can still assign a UX person to a marketing team fairly permanently, but still have them report organizationally to UX. So I think that dotted line is probably the best way to go, where the UX worker is still part of a UX department and collaborates with UX peers and answers to UX management, but has that dotted line to a marketing team or marketing project where hopefully they can be more fully allocated and give that marketing team all of their attention. That way, whether marketing is working on ad creatives, copy, website stuff, white papers, it's always great to get UX professionals to look at this stuff and maybe even do some early testing. I10 says most marketing people don't work with UX people. They have no previous experience with UX. What's the best way to start collaborating? How do we have the conversation? Yeah, that is a little bit of a hard one. I always hope marketing will start that conversation because I know sometimes if UX goes to marketing and says, hey, our website sucks. We want to help you with it. Marketing goes, I made that website. Don't tell me my baby is ugly. And now we're not friends. So I think we have to find ways to work with each other, and I think UX has to find a gentle way to say, hey, look, I want to learn more about the KPIs that you're being held to and any pressure that you might be under to achieve certain goals. I'd like to take a look at how user experience professionals in research and design can help you better achieve those goals more efficiently and cheaper. Now, if marketing says no, thank you, I'm not too sure what else you can do, but we always hope that marketing people will be curious and open-minded and say, "Hmm, tell me more." Now, of course, marketing people do this all day. They give a sales pitch to someone else and they hope that they're going to be curious and want to hear more. So we have to kind of give them the same thing and tell them, look, this is how I think we can work together. You have these goals, you have these things you're being held to. You're expected to increase leads or trials or demos or whatever it might be, especially in a B2B world. Let us help you with this. This is what we do. We make websites easier to understand, better to use. We help conversion rates. So I hope that there's more room for marketing UX relationships, but I know sometimes there is conflict there. So you can only try. Maybe find that one or two marketers who are UX curious or UX excited and work on some projects with them and see if they can become case studies and say, look at what we did. That's what I always hope, but you never know. Jen, you're still a crossed out microphone. I don't know why. I know. And I have no power over what you're doing. I know. Hi, Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, I have a question. For my company, it's been really difficult to recruit real users to test the platforms due to time, costs, etc. Every time we do usability testing, it's short, not so frequent, and lacks of importance for the people involved. Do you have a problem like that? How could we deal with these issues? It's driving me crazy. Cry emoji. Elizabeth, this is super, super common. I don't want you to think that you are alone. Everybody has gone through this before. So, number one, you have to figure out what the blockers are. And you're going to have to fight on all of these fronts. You need the time to do research because somebody wants answers. Answers take time to be found. Remember when our companies had R&D departments? Those people spent weeks, sometimes months, trying to figure stuff out. That was great until someone read a book about Silicon Valley startup bros and forgot what research and development was for. But you're going to have to fight for the time to do world-class work. If people don't want you to do world-class work, ask them why not. And put that in the risk register. Why do you not want me to do my best work? I want to know more. So you've got to fight for the time. You've got to fight for the costs. Yes, B2B testing participants often are expensive. They often have to get 200 an hour, 300 an hour, depending upon the industry that you're in and what level of decision maker you're trying to talk to. But we have to budget for that, because what's the alternative? The alternative is guessing about these people, guessing who they are, guessing what they need, guessing what's going wrong. Which one do you think costs more? The $300 we gave to 10 people? $3,000? That's 3,000, right? That's not 30,000. I'm a little sleepy. Which one costs less? The $3,000 to talk to 10 awesome people, or another round of guessing, engineering working 8 weeks on it, customer support having to clean up our zoo poop? So I think you have, remember, the best way to fight for this stuff is to speak the business's language. Time spent, time saved. Money spent, money saved. Risk mitigated, risk averted. So talk about, yes, this takes time and money, but let's compare that. Make sure you've got a disaster project you know about at your company. Hey, remember the time we built that thing? Remember how long we spent designing, engineering, and building that thing only for to happen? We don't, what did that cost us? How much could we have saved if we had understood better up front? Because we would have known this from our research and testing. So, yes, this is what you have to fight for. It's uncomfortable, it's awkward, but to me that's what a good UX manager is for. If you're in the UX department, I expect your research manager to fight for this. Not everybody at the worker bee level is comfortable fighting for this, but this is where managers and leaders and higher should be fighting for time, budget, headcount, things like that. If you're on the marketing side and you're doing marketing or UX style research, still, I think that a manager or leader has to fight for it. So let me know what you think of that. I10 says, my argument was that if you're not getting me a user recruitment platform, then stop your Figma subscription too. Let's see how your designers are going to do on Microsoft Paint. Isn't I10 the best? Someday I've got to hire her. She is just the best. We must be distant cousins. She's got it right. Yeah, it's amazing how when other departments need tools and want budgets for stuff, the money is flowing. But when UX and sometimes marketing ask for stuff, no, I don't know if you really need that. No, we really need that. And I think people have to say no more. When someone goes, nah, I don't think you need the budget for that. No, we need the budget for that. This conversation's not over. I think we say yes too much and we back down. Some of that is cultural, some of that is personality. You can be sure I don't back down too fast, but sometimes I do eventually have to give up, but I don't back down fast. Other thoughts, questions, disagreements? I would say everybody hire I10, but she just started a new job, so we can't get her. And of course, if anybody would like to find me, deltacx.com/links will take you to our YouTube show schedule, how to join our Slack community, and other fun stuff around my website. And don't forget the 4 horsemen and the pop-ups. I just added the pop-ups. I thought that was fun. I10 says, thanks. This was amazing. Join Delta CX. I'm even funnier there. I10 is funny. It's a lot of wine, whiskey, and helicopters. That's our recurring jokes with I10. She's a frequent member of I would say an active member of our Delta CX community, which welcomes everybody, even you marketers. Come on over. Talk it out with us. Jen, I'm sure you want to say some last words, but unfortunately, you have no microphone. Oh no, it's sticky notes. Oh, thank you, Jen. Yes, thank you. I hope this turned out okay. I know you were hoping I would do a talk that taught everybody how to do UX, but come on. I hope this was okay. You'll have to email me later. Thank you, Erin. Yeah, and of course this is recorded. Jen has my slides. If people want to watch it again later, share it around the office. And if anybody at your office or company has questions, again, I am happy to answer questions. Just email me. My email was on every slide but this one. Mariana says, I work for a small SaaS startup with limited budget. I don't have a UX manager or a lead. I am UX. What are some of the basic tools I can try to use for usability studies and try to identify the ICP? Main problem is churn. Oh, okay. So if your main problem is churn, I would definitely want to do now again, this is my dream. I would want to do some observational studies or at least some interviews. Faster, cheaper interviews. Try to even if they like to use NPS, try to recruit for some of the people who gave you low NPS scores, and talk about not just their experience in the product, but their experience with anybody they've dealt with at the company. This is where you have to put your CX hat on. You have to think about all of the customer touch points. What was it like to deal with our sales team? What was it like to deal with our onboarding person? Or what was it like to deal with the support person? What's it been like to use the system? Where have we saved you time? Where have you found any problems with the system? Because churn to me says that somewhere along the way we abandoned these people, and it could be any one thing, like, oh, your customer support were such poop heads, I am done with you. Or it could be something, oh, everyone's been nice, but your system is just not what you promised it would be. It could be a sense of a broken promise. It could be a sense of this ultimately doesn't do what I want. It could be this should do what I want, but it does it so badly. So I think that this could be done through interviews, and I think if you start by even interviewing, I'm going to go low on this one. Normally we like to talk to 8 to 12 people per segment typology or persona, but if you're a small company with a limited budget, I would say even if you start talking to 10 people, 3, 4, 5 from different target groups of customers. Maybe you have frequent users versus infrequent users. Maybe you have small businesses versus larger businesses. However people break them up, or how you've broken them up, make sure you're understanding the tasks they're trying to accomplish in your system and how or why or where those tasks are not being accomplished difficulty, or not at all. So I would say start there, because so I don't think there's a tool that can really do this. It's not like, oh, if we just turn on Hotjar, we're going to know why we have churn. There are tools that tell us lots of different things, and they're all cool tools. But I think you're not going to know what the company really needs to know about this churn unless you interview the people who've already left about why, or you interview the people who are at risk of leaving because they've answered a survey or an NPS with a low score. I would specifically recruit for some low score people, sixes and unders on an NPS, and talk to 10 of them and try to find out what's going wrong. If you need help designing that study, let me know. I'll give you a little free help. But that's probably what I would do. And yes, you are supposed to pay for their time, because that is the right thing to do. And I know that affects the budget. But if they are existing customers, maybe there's a way to give them a discount on their invoice if they pay monthly, or an extra hour of support, or see if there's something you can throw people. But that's hard, because if they're not happy with your system, they might not want more of it. Like the time that the Hilton hotel at the Boston airport was so shitty to me, and I threw a small controlled fit, and their response was, well, we'll give you a coupon for a free night. And I was like, I am never effing coming back here. I don't want to pay for this night. Don't give me the coupon for the future night. So be careful. If you're interviewing unhappy customers, don't give them the coupon for the future night. Just give them some cash, because this information is invaluable. What's it going to cost your company to know why people hate them? $3,000? $5,000? That's nothing. That's nothing. Your boss spent that on crypto last week. It's nothing. So I would definitely push for that, because churn is a BFD, as we say in America, a big effing deal. Mariana, I hope that helps you. please join the Slack community. We'll be there for you. Anybody else before Jen gets kicked out of her virtual room? All right. All right. Well, then I will say a thank you again to Jen. If there's anything you think I can talk about in the future, give me a ringy dingy, dial me on the rotary phone, let me know. Thank you, Jen. And thanks to, of course, Kiwi Creative and the HubSpot universe. And I'm going to head out of here. And thanks to I-10 for being a great audience. And I will see everybody soon somewhere. Thanks. Bye.